Algunos sueños parecen muy grandes e inalcanzables, pero son los que te impulsan a creer, a crear y a transformar. Tu imaginación y la exploración de nuevos horizontes te permitirán escribir una nueva historia y cambiar la realidad. Alcanzar tus sueños te motiva, pero aportar a una mejor sociedad te hace grande. Tu talento es el inicio de un gran futuro. Crea en ti y todo será posible. UPB.
Good morning to all of the audience in Colombia and Latin America. Good afternoon to our audience in Germany and Europe. I'm Oscar Acevedo, professor at the UPB Language Center. Welcome to the HEPCoPa Lecture Series, a project organized by the Universidad Pontificia Bolivariana, Bucaramanga, and the University of Potsdam as part of the Higher Education Potsdam-Colombian Partnership. The HEPCoPa project is a bilateral initiative developed jointly by Colombia and Germany, in which the University of Potsdam, Universidad de Caldas, Pontificia Universidad Javeriana Cali, Colombian Universities Association, ASCUN, and Universidad Pontificia Bolivariana Bucaramanga have worked together since 2018 to build up capacities in the area of quality, digitalization, and management in higher education. Today is the kickoff of the HEPCoPa Lecture Series second version, in which the central topic is the scientific and civil society approaches to the Sustainable Development Goals in two world regions, Colombia and Germany. Before the central lecture of today, let me introduce you to Rafael Calles, Head of International Affairs at UPB Bucaramanga, and Jörg Hefer, Digitalization Team Leader at the University of Potsdam, to share with us some insights about this new version. So welcome. Thank you very much for joining us today.
Professor Oscar, thank you so much for this opportunity to participate in the kickoff of the HEPCoPa Lecture Series, and as well, welcome to Professor Jörg Hafer from University of Potsdam, also our knowledge for all the partners in this process and project, and also obviously for the German Academic Exchange Service that is part and a quite and very important partner for these kind of opportunities that we are developing. So we want to share with you some insights about the aim and the scope of the lecture series for this second opportunity, because we developed a first version of the HEPCoPa Lecture Series project between the final and the end of 2021 and the first months of the 2022. So the plan in this second version and opportunity is to mix the research with the practice, and also to give you some background. We started the last year with the HEPCoPa Lecture Series as part of the digitalization pillar of the HEPCoPa project, with the aim of going in depth about societal transformation processes. We're part of a difficult COVID-19 pandemic, and also different processes linked into globalization, recognition, environmental changes, and many other activities and processes that we are facing. And that is very important to have more opportunity to know about these processes. Also doing a comparison between the German perspective and the Colombian perspective as part of a dialogue that is very important for our institutions and also for the partnerships among universities. So we developed this first version to envision solutions, also with the support of universities, students, and professors involved in the HEPCoPa project, and also external stakeholders that will be part of the lecture series in each one of the lectures that we have to do. So that's the first paragraph about the HEPCoPa Lecture Series. We did a very important effort among universities to develop a total of 9 lectures by 5 German lecturers from the DAAD, the University of Potsdam, different institutions from Germany, also 2 lecturers from the UPB Bucaramanga, 1 lecturer from the Universidad Javeriana in Cali, Colombia, and also 1 lecturer from the Universidad de Caldas. We had a very good participation in media and press in Colombia, Germany, and also in Argentina, using partners and stakeholders linked to also the private and public sector alliances, and also the university institutions in which we are concentrating a very important number of efforts and opportunities together. And also as key facts, more than 1,300 views in YouTube, more than 300 comments into the YouTube chat, having in mind the interaction that we can develop between professors, students, and many other interesting people in this kind of series. And also very good mentions, a very good number of mentions about our hashtag GCO Dialogue. So it's totally free and open to use it in social media if you want. So this is a short paragraph about the forecast that we explored in the first version of the HEPCoPa Lecture Series, and we watched to increase also in these new opportunities. So I know that Professor York have more information for you.
Thank you very much, Rafael. So also a warm welcome from my side to Colombia and Europe. Right now I'm located in India, but I support this lecture series from my place in affiliation to the University of Potsdam. So I'd like to talk a little bit about the aim and the scope of our lecture series. And I'd like to explain how we designed and want to carry out the series. The starting point are the 17 goals for sustainable development of the United Nations, which were adopted in 2015. These goals provide a framework for global action towards sustainability development for a sustainability future. Many local and international initiatives and programs have already adopted these goals and pursuing them at different levels. This include national, local governments, as well as governmental and non-governmental organizations, projects, and initiatives. Where do we stand with the implementation of the Sustainable Development Goals today? Today, we see a number of global developments calling for increased collective efforts to make these goals really a reality. This development shows, at our point of view, very clear that there's a need for a realistic assessment of where we are today, what steps need to be taken next, and what hurdles need to be overcome. In fact, many developments today point in the wrong directions. Here are coming a series of illustrations showing where different countries are in meeting the Sustainable Development Goals today. This illustration is about the country performances in respect to fighting poverty. Here we have a picture of responsibility consumption and production. This is a freshwater and wastewater management world map. And finally, with the worst picture shows the assessment of the state of peace, justice, and constitutional institutions in the world. So it seems to be a lot to do to reach really the goals. What's the role of science play? In the 2030 agenda, science is given a new role, which assumes that science will be one of the most important means of implementing the SDGs. Science is seen as a driver and an enabler of sustainable development. Also, universities have often played this role in the past. Universities provide impetus, they start initiatives and give impetus to civil society and politics. These impetuses are often practical, mostly locally oriented initiatives and projects that pave anyhow the way for a broader societal activities. So the program of our lecture series aims to bring together different perspectives from different research directions and fields of actions that deals with the implementation of the SDGs. To do this, we are primarily looking at two regions of the world, Colombia and Germany, and would like to bring together actors from different areas of social development. These developments are already visible or less visible, interwoven and influenced each other. That's a strong point of our program. The questions we ask ourselves is how do science and societal actors interact with each other? What does research and practice look like to advance the realization to the Sustainable Development Goals? You can participate in the lecture series in various ways. We have one, you can join our live streams here every week. If you are interested in gaining a certificate on the Colombian side or to come in regular exchange with us, you can join our Moodle course. The students of University of Potsdam can also attend a lecture series, the lecture series as part of the Studium Plus. And you can just follow us on Twitter and other platforms using the hashtag #GeckoCa So we will send you the links also in the chat. I thank you for your attention. And now the stage is open for our first presenter today.
All right. So, Rafael, George, thank you very much for presenting us this new initiative. And, well, of course, it's very important to take out science from the purely scientific environments. And it's very interesting what you're doing right now into bringing science and scientific knowledge into real life situations. So, as y'all just told us a moment ago, we will move to our first lecture. So, let me introduce you to our speaker for this lecture, Dr. Ana Maria Aguirrekanas. She is a political scientist with a specialization in public opinion and political marketing from the Pontificia Universidad Javeriana. She holds a master's degree in international relations from the University of Leicester in United Kingdom, and she is a PhD student in political science and international relations at the Autonomous University of Barcelona in Spain. In the last 12 years, she has advised public and private entities such as the Presidency of the Republic of Colombia, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, the Ministry of Environment and Sustainable Development, the National Association of Colombian Businessmen, the ANDI, L'Oréal Panama, among many others. She currently directs Colombia Connect, a Colombian-German cooperation network on biodiversity, bioeconomy, and peace building. The network promotes the fair and sustainable use of biological resources. So, Dr. Ana Maria, thank you very much for joining us today. Welcome to HEPCoPa Lecture Series, and well, the stage is all yours.
Good morning to you all. Thank you, Oscar. Just a bit correction. I am not doctor yet. I will be in a couple years, but I'm still a PhD student.
Okay.
So you could address me as Ana Maria, as I am.
All right. Well, I'm definitely sure that you'll get it. So yeah, thank you very much.
I'm going to share my screen so you all could see my presentation, and please let me know if you can see it correctly.
Okay. All right, it's loading up now. Yes, it's in full screen already.
Thank you. So first, I would like to tell you about Colombia Connect. So who we are, what is our vision, mission, and our lines of actions. And then I'm going to talk about the Bioma community, which is one of our partners. I'm going to tell you what they are doing and how they are helping to fight deforestation in Colombia. So first, who we are. Well, Colombia Connect is, in a very simple way to explain, a network that promotes the fair and sustainable use of Colombia bioresources. We are one of the Connect 5. So the Federal Ministry of Education and Research of Germany award 1 million euros to 5 organizations around the world that presented a group of projects. We are one of those. The other ones are in Africa, Asia, and one of them is in Europe. And these are our partners. So we have in Colombia, CEMARIN, which is the Corporation Center of Excellence in Marine Sciences. We have Instituto Humboldt, which is the organization in Colombia in charge of the supervision of biodiversity. We have the CAPAS Institute, which is the Colombian and German Institution for Peace. And the last member that joined us here in the country is Bioma, which is a network for reforestation. In Germany, our members are the Gießen University, the Fraunhofer IME, and the Senckenberg the center of biodiversity of them. And as you see, this is our logo, and I will always like to explain what it means. So it is a puzzle, as you see, and there are 4 pieces. The one that represents the green side in the left part of it, it represents biodiversity. The blue part of it represents bioeconomy, and the green part of it represents peace building. Those are the 3 fields that Colombia Connects work on. And at the center, of course, there are communities. And as you can see, the human figure is a darker one. So we work with that mindset. We want always to create connections among those 3 fields, and all the projects and all the activities that Colombia Connect does are intended for that purpose. What is our mission? We want to be an independent network that does transdisciplinary studies, that does national and international consulting, outreach activities, always based on science, and that through research and excellent research facilitate the use of bioresources. Always keeping in mind that we are looking for the sustainable and fair use of them. And when we talk about our mission, this is also related to our values. We always work believing in distributive justice, the respect of the material livelihoods and cultural characteristics of the population, and a strict consideration for ecological sustainability. And this has brought, during the past 2 years, a lot of discussions and conversations among us on what means sustainability and what we're intended to do. And finally, it's very important to say that Colombia Connect is one organization that is born within the ecosystem of the final agreement between the government of Colombia and the guerrilla of FARC, and that we believe that peace is an universal superior human right that is necessary for the exercise of the other rights and duties of the people, as the final agreement states. So our lines of actions, when we talk about that, we do 3 things. The first one is share. We disseminate information that contributes to the sustainable development and peace building process in Colombia. We also like to create spaces for the perspective and voices of the Colombian indigenous and Black communities. In the matter of Connect, as I have already explained to you, we link the fields of biodiversity, bioeconomy, and peace and conflict research. We support the balancing of interests between different actors whenever we work in different fields, and we support the expansion of the scientific and economic cooperation, not only between Colombia and Germany, but among our communities as well. And finally, we research. And we have a group of best practice projects among our organizations. They are based, one of them in Urabá, in the north part of Antioquia. The other one is in Caquetá, in La Montañita, and Florencia. We have one with the Agua people, which is an indigenous community that has members in Ecuador and Colombia in the Nariño region. And the last one of our best practice projects is in Gießen, Germany. And we do this trying to fill knowledge gap in excellent research and synergy efforts, but also we want to create knowledge that helps communities. And whenever I talk about this, I remember that last summer we were in Frankfurt having a workshop, and I asked different researchers that work in our projects what were the favorite species in Colombia. And one of them, Professor Jenny Leal from Universidad de Antioquia, responds, "I like fish." And I said, well, of course, she's a biologist that works in everything related to the sea. And she's, no, I don't like fish because of that. I like fish because they calm the hunger. And that explains pretty much what we do. We like the science that serves communities. And finally, of course, we work with our 3 lines of action related to sustainability, and that comes with the 17 goals that were already discussed here. And I would like to share with you a short video of one of our best practice projects, the project that is in charge of the CAPAS Institute. And the CAPAS Institute right now in Caquetá is working with medicinal plants. And when we work with that, of course, there is the stigma of the coca leaf. And one of the things that we have been doing is to try to raise the stigmatization that the plant have, and to make very clear that it is a sacred plant for the indigenous communities and from tradition for the traditions.
Los cantos o tal, porque es la manera de enseñar, porque los aprendices pues está escuchando al mayor o al tostador o dependiendo quién sea, y está ahí va recogiendo la enseñanza. Y dice, así cantaba mi abuelo cuando tostaba. Este es como un ejemplo de vida. No lo haga por pereza, por vicio, no, porque este no es fácil. O sea, como hay que hacerlo con cariño, o sea, como dice, una comida con amor para que alimente, para que nutre igualmente, como es para todos. Y lo otro que, pues es colectivo. Cada mambeador tiene sus funciones. Unos que saca las hojas, otro que alista el yaruno, otro que pila, otro que cierra, porque es un proceso colectivo, porque es para el consumo general y es el vivir del indígena durante muchos tiempos y seguir manteniendo el legado que nos damos hoy. Este ya es el rito como tal, que es el compartir la palabra, porque esta es la hoja. Y aquí donde le enseña ya la igualdad, que nadie se superior a nada. Todos tenemos la capacidad de, en cierto lugar, aportar y enseñar. La coca dulce, la palabra, es nuestra lengua. Es para hablar, para cuidar, para proteger, para sostener la futura generación. A través de la hoja de coca, a través de la masa de tabaco. Y es palabra de sanación.
So for many communities in Colombia, the coca leaf is a sacred plant. And Colombia Connect wants to talk about that because the war on drugs has stigmatized their beliefs and their way of living. So part of what we do is also to talk about these topics. And we do it through conference. We have a podcast. We publish newsletters. And we, of course, do a best practice project related to these when we're creating books related to the uses of medicinal plants. And in one of those is, of course, coca. Now I'm going to talk to you about the work of one of our partners, the Bioma community. And to introduce the work, first, I would like to state a few facts related to the Colombian biodiversity. First is, according to the Biodiversity Information System, Colombia has 67,000 registered species of fauna and flora. What this means? It means that Colombia is one of the mega diverse countries in the world. And actually, when you think about the size of our country, Colombia is the most mega diverse country in the world by kilometer square. It's big, our biodiversity is even bigger than the one that is in Brazil. That is the first one. And that is related that we are, the Brazil is 7 times the size of Colombia. And among our territory, we find the density is higher of biodiversity. This is, this brings a lot of opportunities, and it explains pretty much what Colombia Connect focuses on biodiversity and what we believe that bioeconomy is the path that we need to follow in order to create opportunities for communities. But this biodiversity is also strengthened. And at this very moment, the Red Books of Colombia series it says that there are about 1,200 species that they are threatened. And this is just an estimate, because remember the number 67,000 species, that is what we have registered, but our potential is much higher. So their estimate indicates that in Colombia, we could find 900,000 species, which is more than 9 times what we have registered right now. And it's what we have. We are the most mega diverse country. Imagine what would be if we actually register all those species that we have. And at this very moment, these are the species that they are threatened and that we know that they are in danger, but probably the number is much higher because we don't know exactly what is the dimension of the Colombia biodiversity. And with that in mind, and we know that there are so many species threatened, we look for what are the reasons that happened. And one of our partners, which is the one that supervises the Colombia biodiversity, the Instituto Humboldt, has done research on the field through many decades, and they say that the greatest threat is the loss of natural habitats. And they are usually related to agriculture and expensive cattle ranching. And when we talk about the other threats, of course, illegal mining and invasive species and other things, they come from the same conclusion. The biggest threat is deforestation. So what Colombia should do to preserve its biodiversity and also the balance in communities and to fight climate change is to fight deforestation. And that is what Bioma Community does. Bioma Community is a strategy to preserve native forests that is intended for small and medium-sized companies. They create a way for them to actually put into practice the fight of deforestation and actually create a path that is very easy to follow if they want to reduce the footprint, the carbon footprint. So what they do is they create native forests as an environmental strategy, and they are based on the environmental social governance, the ESG, which is a set of standards that for companies' behavior used for social investors. So companies that actually are looking for the investment, they are looking to create this type of strategies. And Bioma creates a path and they actually fulfill the need. So what they are, their numbers, they know that there is a need in the market for environmental responsibility. They know that the clients and consumers are willing to pay more in some parts of the market if they find that response in companies. So how they work, when a company approaches them, they measure the environmental footprint and they calculate the area of the forest that is needed to create to compensate that. Then Bioma goes and regenerates the forest, and then they create the data for the environmental service of the forest. And Colombia Connect is working at this moment on a platform that will help Bioma show their partners how the forest is growing. So we are working right now with a company, HEPCoPa, it's a German company. They're creating this platform, and we will measure this by satellite pictures. So our goal is that each of Bioma partners can click a link and they will see how the forest is growing. So Bioma helps the companies to compensate their footprint, and Colombia Connect is helping Bioma, showing them how that is happening. Bioma Community, this is one of the biggest achievements. They have been in the market for 1.5 years, around 18 months, maybe a bit longer, and they have already planted 1,000 trees. And that is a huge goal that I have been seeing in different startups, and they are doing great. And we believe in their potential. We know right now the biggest need is they need to find land, because finding land to plant trees is not as easy as you would expect. We are looking for public land, so the trees are going to be protected. We're looking to make deals with communities that are actually not intended to destroy the forest. So we plant new trees. We need areas where they're going to be protected, so the companies that they are looking to reduce the footprint can show that to clients. And in each transactions that they make, one new tree is planted. That is the purpose of Bioma, and that's why we decided that we're going to support them. Right now, we have these over 100 small and medium-sized companies that they have joined Bioma, and they are working to have more. They are currently settled in the coffee region. They work pretty much in the Parque Nacional de los Nevados, which is in the area, but they are looking right now to expand, and they have been having conversations with companies in the Amazon, and with American companies and Peruvian ones that they are looking to replicate their model and to bring that. So that's what I wanted to share with you guys today, and I thank you for your time. I'm going to stop sharing my screen, so if there are any questions, I will be very happy to address.
All right. Well, Ana Maria, thank you very much for sharing this information with us. The presentation, of course, is totally interesting, and is very interesting how we try to, or well, on your part, how you try to re-signify the concepts and the conceptions that people have about the Colombian community and about the biodiversity also. So for this moment, we are going to move to a question and answer session. So all of the people who are following the lecture can write their questions, and we will be choosing some of them. We have already a couple of questions here on the chat. So Nicolas Zuluaga is asking, which lessons have you been applying from the German experience about sustainability in the Colombian case?
Okay, so that brings a lot of experience. So first, we had been trying to have a definition of sustainability. And when you think about that, you will say, well, that's easy. There are masters, there are PhD students, there are professors that have been researching the term for a long time. But it's not that simple, because sustainability is also related to a balance, and it has to take into account cultural aspects of society. So whenever our German partners bring this perspective, it's wonderful, because they have an European background. But I am very happy to say that they are fully aware that whenever Colombians and Europeans bring something at the same table, their legacy, there is a neo-colonialistic perspective of it. So colonialism exists, and it still exists today. So they are very careful whenever they approach whenever their perspectives of the world, how to do it. So what our conclusion is not the role of our German partners to bring their definition of sustainability. It is the work of them to create spaces where Colombians can do it. So that is one of their learnings that we have came, one of the lessons. And they are fully aware of the difference in balance of power, especially because money comes from Germany. So they always are aware of that, and they are very respectful in the way that they are actually working with us.
Yes. Actually, as you were mentioning just a moment ago, it depends on the place, and it depends on the customs and the traditions that a social group has. And that's one of the most interesting points that I was able to perceive.
I remember we have one podcast, and our podcast works on the word of sustainability. And I was with Professor Brigitte Baptiste talking about the definitions. And she brought one example. So we have chigüiros, and chigüiros is a protected species in Colombia. Yes. But people from Los Llanos have been eating chigüiros for centuries. Yes. And one of them got arrested because it killed a chigüiro. And it is facing a possibility of spending 15 years in jail because of that. That is not sustainable. That is not the way. We cannot protect biodiversity if we don't take into account the cultural practices of communities. So totally right. that could be one example of that.
Right. Yeah, that's totally right. You're completely right. All right. Yo Hafer, he's asking, if could Bioma be seen as part of a social responsibility management in companies?
Yeah, that's actually their strategy. That's what they want to do. So if you have a medium or small size company, you probably would not have enough money and time to put into the effort to create an strategy on your own. So they do that for you. They actually are say, okay, in each transactions, you give us this amount of money, and with that we start planting trees. But planting trees is not that easy. It's not that you go and say, okay, I'm going to plant any type of tree. You need to regenerate the forest, following specific standards. So what Bioma does is use scientific knowledge and actually create the forest in the proper way, because that is actually quite difficult. It's more complicated than we were imagining at first.
Yeah. So your job is pretty much to be the intermediaries between one aspect and the other.
My job is actually seeing opportunities. So
Okay.
what I'm trying to do is to connect partners to bring ideas at the same table. So because I work and I talk with different type of people all the time, I always say, for example, Sara Bohanini, which is the CEO of Bioma, she's focusing on growing Bioma and she's focusing on protecting the forest. But she's not working actually in what is this being discussed at this very moment in the Congress. So I saw that type of opportunities, and what I intend to do is to say to Sarah, well, Congresswoman Julia Miranda is right now, she has right now open a commission regarding deforestation. So I think you should talk to her. And I put the two of them together at the same place, and they see how their goals match, and they work. That's what I do. I try to bring people together.
All right. You were mentioning something about taking into account or considering the adequate conditions in order to do the reforestation process. I'm sure that has something to do also with the type of flora that is going to be reforested, taking into account the background, the context, the environmental conditions of the place that you're going to do the reforestation process in.
Yeah, that is correct. So first, you have to reforest with native trees, which is that is pretty much obvious. But at the same time, you have to do it in a way that actually doesn't affect the balance of other species. So each intervention in that ecosystem has consequences, and sometimes those could be bad even when your intentions are pretty good. So that is what they do. They actually try to bring scientific knowledge, and they bring the work of others in order to do that. It's also, so for example, the Humboldt Institute has identified 12 hotspots of biodiversity in Colombia. We need to preserve those 12 hotspots. And that we also bring together the work of the Bioma and the work of the Humboldt. We want them to work together in order to preserve those 12 hotspots. But in order to do that, we need money. So Bioma needs to grow and have more companies actually bringing in enough money to plant new trees.
Bring in all the possible benefits without doing much harm, right?
Yes.
All right. And Yin Yang Wang, she is asking, how does Bioma reach to the companies, or do the companies actively reach to Bioma? How is the process?
It is in the old way, in the new way. So what they do is they know, for example, that tourism is very high in the area of Salento. Salento is a small town in Quindío. It's in the south part of the coffee region in Colombia, and 96% of its economy is related to tourism. So they people go there not only because the town is pretty, because it is pretty, but it's because it's right next to the Valley of Cocora. The Valley of Cocora is where the Colombian national tree is, which is the wax palm. But the wax palm is very, very it is very particular and it's very beautiful. It's a very tall palm, which it reached 80 meters, and it is in a very high altitude, which is unique in the world. They only exist here in Colombia. But in order to have a wax plant, you need an Andean forest, because the plant, the palm only grows after one bird eats the seed and defecate it. So if you don't have the bird, you don't have the plant, and the bird doesn't exist without the forest. So in order for the small companies in Salento to have tourists, They have to preserve the ponds, and they have to preserve the forest. So that's how Bioma goes there. They go and they start talking to people. They're very good at that. And also they are looking for international investors. So they actually reach places where you can find crowdfunding opportunities. They were the past 2 weeks in New York City trying to find investors. The point with that is, if you talk about foreigners, they are looking for the Amazon. So that is what actually brings their attention. Is, well, you can understand why. It's the most attractive part of it.
Yes.
Even when our hotspots of biodiversity not only match the Amazon jungle, but also that's why they are intending to actually expand their activities to the Amazon, because they know that attracts more people.
Yes. And just as a quick question, I'm sure that you also do education processes with the communities, as you were saying, for example, in the case of Salento, to educate them about preserving the flora, preserving the fauna, how to do it, how those processes are carried.
Well, we do that. We do outreach to information to the communities. It is complicated, and I'm not going to lie to you, because what we have in our mind regarding development, the idea and the model of development that we have is not to use the bioresources in a sustainable way. So even when we believe that we're doing the right thing, sometimes we're not. And I'm going to bring one example, the peace agreement.
Okay.
And as someone that believes in peace, and I believe that peace is a superior human right, and my research is related to violence and to conflict, for me it was very surprising to know that the model of development that is contained in the peace agreement is also related to agriculture and to the use of land in agro ways. And that is not always sustainable. So even when we think that we're doing the right thing, we have to keep in mind what is the purpose of land. And the purpose of land is not always to bring food. And that is very complicated. It's like, but what, that is what we're supposed to do. Not. We could become, and as they say all the time in many spaces of discussion, la despensa de alimentos of the world, or we can already be what we are, which is the most mega diverse country in the world, and learn to use that biodiversity to bring well-being to communities. And that is tricky.
Yes, it's like to take out the conception that if I see a piece of land, what profit can I take from it, and just learn the importance of the land, not in terms of the remuneration or the profit that we can get from there.
And actually, forests can bring a lot of profit. And the point of the Cocora Valley is exactly that. That is how they're bringing profit.
All right, good. We have one last question here on the chat. If you could explain a little bit more, what are the issues in respect to the values you mentioned, if they are culturally related?
The issues of what, sorry?
In respect to the values that you were mentioning.
Okay, so the issues in respect to the values of Colombia Connect. So first, the definitions of the words. We need to have the same framework. So as I already told you, we spent a lot of hours defining sustainability and defining what we understand for that. And also to be open-minded. I am a political scientist, and one of my areas of work is theory and state theory. So for me, humans are the one who have rights. And I understand that from my background. But whenever I start talking to my colleagues, now they're talking about the rights of nature, which is something absolutely new. So we have to be open-minded, and our values and our traditions change. And we need to approach that from a political perspective. Is this good for communities in long term? Is this good if we actually open to this conversation? And I believe it is. So be very open-minded and know that from different disciplines, there are new things that we have to discuss.
Right. Well, okay. Thank you very much for that explanation. Personally, I don't see any more questions here in the chat. So we want to thank you once again for your time and for being part of the HEPCoPa Lecture Series. Thank you very much for sharing your knowledge with us. And it was a very fulfilling presentation.
Thank you. Thank you for the invitation, and thank you for the people that have been listening and watching.
All right. Bye bye.
Bye.
Okay. In order to finish, we would like to thank you all so much. To all the people who are connected on our YouTube channel, we would like also to invite you for next Wednesday, October 26th, to the second session with lectures about research cooperation for peace and unfair practices in price fixing. So thank you very much for joining us today. Thank you very much for listening to our conference for this moment, and we all wish you a very good day. Thank you very much.